Good evening and welcome. Today we have the honor of speaking with Father Darren Brown, a Catholic priest with an extraordinary life story, including a long service in Iraq and Afghanistan during times of war. In this interview, we will explore his journey from childhood through the discovery of his priestly vocation, and finally his powerful experience on the front lines of human suffering and hope. Father Darren, thank you for being with us.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
Father Darren, could you begin by telling us where you grew up and what kind of environment shaped your early years?
So, I was born in Harrogate in North Yorkshire, 1967. I was 3 years old, I think, when we moved from Harrogate. So I didn't know Harrogate as a child, and we moved a little bit further south into South Yorkshire, and then at the age of 5, we moved to a village called Carlton in Lindrick in North Nottinghamshire, and that's where I started school, Ramsden School in the village at the age of 5. And life was okay, you don't really know at that age, do you? The ups and downs of what family go through, I suppose. We were for want of a better term, a modest income family. My mother didn't work at the time. My dad had his own business in workshop, selling toys. So in that kind of perspective, it was a good life because we had lots of toys, all the latest toys to play with. So that was quite good. We used to go to his warehouse, and it was just surrounded by toys. So at that age, that was great. That's all I knew, I suppose, back then, isn't it? When you're that young. And we then moved to another village in Nottinghamshire called Dunham-on-Trent. It was a bit more rural, and I think I was 9 years old, if I remember rightly, when we moved there. And I went to the local school. It was a Church of England school, whereas Ramsden in Carlton wasn't a Church of England. So there was a religious element to that second school I went to, and we rented a very large farmhouse, just the house, not the farm itself. So, and we had a lot of land, a big, huge garden, probably about an acre of garden, which is also great, great fun. And me and my older brother, we had motorbikes, little off-road things, and we'd go round the fields and so forth, and which was great fun.
What role did faith play in your family during your childhood?
So, I was christened, actually, in the Church of England, as we all were. I mean, everybody was back then. Baptised, christened, and when we lived at Carlton in Lindrick, me and my older brother, from the age of 7 to 9, because then we moved house, we were actually in the church choir in that I can't remember the name of the church, in Carlton in Lindrick, because my mother was a singer, an amateur singer. So we were brought up with my mother singing in the house, so, and she wanted us to sing. So we both went to every Sunday. My mother was there as well. And we sang in the church choir. So that was my first, if you like, experience of anything religious, I suppose, on that, at a young age. I was being in that choir. And when we moved to Dunham-on-Trent, we then joined the choir in that church as well. And so that we were in that, I can't remember, 2 or 3 years, 4 years maybe, whilst I was at primary school and then comprehensive school. So that again, but also another influence, kind of in a distance, I suppose you could say, was the vicar would come, I think once a month, if I remember rightly, to that school in Dunham to give an assembly, and so all I remember really is this big man. He probably wasn't big at all, but to me he was. And he always wore a cloak, a big cloak, coming to the school and standing in front of us and talking to us. But he didn't, from what I remember, he never individually spoke to the children, which was a shame, really. I think, perhaps that's just how it was, But I never had a conversation with him or even said hello to him, as far as I remember, personally. But it doesn't matter. I kind of remember him coming, and I suppose, looking back, it was part of a religious foundation that I can see in my early life.
As a young boy, did you already feel drawn to serving others, or did the desire grow later in life? Maybe
later. Yeah. I don't have any memory of thinking in that way while I was a child, to be honest. Life was a little bit difficult for us. My mother, she went to, once we moved to Dunham-on-Trent, my mother went to a teacher training college and became a teacher. So she was then working. My dad was now working at home, from home, rather than going to this warehouse. He'd sold that business and gone into a kind of financial services business. So he was at home. So it was either way around, when we moved there. So just remind me of the question exactly again.
as a young boy, did you already feel drawn to serving others, or maybe later?
So, no, school was quite difficult. It was the comprehensive system. It was a rural school. The prospects looking ahead for most children was either to go into the coal mines or to work in the farm, in a farming capacity. It was a big farming kind of area. And so, as growing up as children, if you weren't particularly academic, and I wasn't at school, then your thoughts were down, well, I'm going to go into the pit, or I'm going to try and get a job on a farm, or something like that, So that's where the focus was, I think. And also the comprehensive, it wasn't a religious school. So that religious element ceased during that period of time.
When did you first start sensing that you might be called to the priesthood?
Not until the age of 22. So if I can just go back a little bit. So at 16, I left school. My older brother, he'd gone to sixth form and done A-levels. I hadn't. We moved to Nottingham City, which we'd hardly ever been to a city, to be honest, until that point. That's what life was like, really, back then, So we moved to Nottingham, and I went into the what was called the youth training scheme for a year, and I trained as a carpenter, and I went to college, and so on. And then I just had a few random jobs, in my teens. I joined the Territorial Army, Reservist Army, at 18 to 20, a couple of years as well. I then I was a scout leader as well, and we had Isla's got something to say. And we had a link between our scout group and a scout group in the Faroe Islands, which is up near Iceland. And we went to visit them, and there was loads of work. And a friend of mine, a Faroese friend, said, "Why don't you come up here and work?" So I did. So at the age of 20, I went up to the Faroe Islands. I worked in a fish factory for about 6 months, and then got a job with my friend working in their national grid. And I built electric pylons for 3.5 years over the mountains. Now, I shared a house with another English fella who'd come up with me. He was also a scout leader at the time, and he was Catholic. And his mother used to send him all these kind of Catholic publications up to him, because he wasn't really practicing. He wasn't practicing as a Catholic, And in this one article, in this one publication, there was an article written about John Paul II visiting Scandinavia, which was the following year, and for some reason he kind of came alive spiritually a little bit, at least. And he said, "I wonder if if there's a trip organised to go and see him, the Pope." And so he persuaded me to ring the local Catholic priest. He was 50 miles away, and ask him. Why he wouldn't ask him himself is beyond me. But anyway, I did it. Anyway, this priest, who was Danish, came to see us the next day, and to tell us that he was organising a trip, and we expressed an interest. We then both started to go to Mass. I wasn't Catholic at the time, he was. And it was 50 miles away. In the summer we could drive, in the winter we had to go on the ferry because we couldn't go over the mountain road in the car. And then a year later, I'm converting to Catholicism.
So your family was Anglican.
Yes. There were some Catholics in the family who married into the family, as it were, but there's a little bit of an influence, but not much. And then, from when I'm received into the church, which it was 1988, I then start to think about ministry. That's the point, really. I suppose it's in that year I'm thinking about it, but then just 2 or 3 months after, I remember saying to this priest, Father Per Vargo, his name was, I think I feel called, to the priesthood. His advice was, well, give yourself time to become a Catholic, and to get used to being a Catholic and so forth, and developing your spirituality, and your Catholic faith, and which is what I did. And so that's the point. Yeah, when I first felt a calling.
So was your vocation a sudden, unmistakable moment, or rather as slow as something difficult journey?
It was kind of fairly, yeah. I mean, before Father Per Vargo visited us to tell us about the Pope, I had gone to the local Lutheran church with the family who I was lodging with. So I'd been going to church, to the local Lutheran church. So that, I suppose there was a little bit of a foundation there, but nothing really that deep, I think. And it wasn't until I'd started to go to the Catholic church that I'd actually picked up a Bible and even started reading it.
So did you find something more deeper in the Catholic faith?
Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, definitely. There was something, absolutely. And I remember I read the Bible from cover to cover, which took me a few weeks.
And did you experience any inner resistance or fear in front of this calling?
Not really fear. No, it's kind of more the opposite, really, kind of an excitement. It was something completely new in my life, completely different. and I was kind of looking forward to exploring it at the very least. And when I was in discussion with Father Per Vargo, he basically said there's only one real way to find out if your vocation is good, if you like, and that's to go to seminary. If you're accepted, go to seminary, spend a year in the seminary. You'll know, in that year whether or not you feel as though A, you're called, and B, that you want to do it. And so I did. In 1991, I joined the Order of Friars Minor Conventual. In 1991.
So, did you understood how to say, in a decisive turning point when you said with the certainty, yes, I will become a priest? So, did you understood in one moment? Yes, I want to be a priest or not. So.
Well, in that 3 months or so after I became a Catholic, that's when I thought, I think I feel called to the priesthood. I didn't really know until I'd gone to seminary, to the Order of Friars Minor, which was also a seminary. And I was a postulant and then a novice. And then after that, after I'd been in for 2 years, I then started my studies for the priesthood. And so that's when I suppose definitively made the decision in 1993. I think when I said to myself, right, I'm going to start the studies. You're invited obviously by the bishop. You have to go through the interview process, and that's when I started seminary.
How did your family and people around you react to this decision?
Nobody really opposed it. My older brother, he was and still is an atheist, quite strongly devoted, for want of a better term, atheist. He was always questioning, asking questions about religion and so forth. And at the time, I didn't have too many answers for him because my academic level wasn't particularly great at that time, in terms of knowing, in terms of apologetics, I suppose, how to answer these questions. But that's fine. They were good conversations we had, and they were quite informative between myself and my older brother. But other than that, I had no opposition at all. My mother was supportive. My dad had actually passed away in 1985, sadly, or 86, 85. So he was out of the picture, obviously. So, but no opposition. No.
Okay. Have you ever listened in some way the voice of God, or have you ever had a special sign from God that you wish to share?
I suppose the sign, as it were, if you like, was Father Peravago visiting us in the Faroe Islands. But also, without him knowing it, my friend, he's the one that, said, I wonder if there's an organised visit to go and see the Pope. So, in that way, God does work in mysterious ways, doesn't he? He works through us without us realising it. Even Father Per visiting us, he just came to tell us about a trip he was organising. It was me, wasn't it, that sprung to life spiritually, if you like, and it was me that said I'm going to start to go to mass, and then my friend, he decided to come along. You know, so yeah, I suppose that's the initial moment.
Father Darren, how did your mission and involvement in Afghanistan and Iraq begin?
So I already mentioned that I'd been in the reservist army from the age of 18 to 20. So, and my dad, he'd done his national service, and his brothers, both of his older brothers, had been in the Second World War. One as a corporal medic, he was a medic, and the other one sadly died in El Alamein. So and my brother and I, my older brother, we were both air cadets from the age of 13 to 16. So we got a little bit of a foundation of the military life, in the family, and the fact that we'd both been cadets, and I had been in the Territorial Army. So when I was ordained a priest in 2003, I was a curate for 2 years in Derbyshire, and then I asked the bishop if I could join the army as a chaplain, and that was in 2005. He said yes. I went through the interview process and went to Sandhurst and so forth, and did all that, and then became a chaplain. When I reached the field army after training, I was only in for a year, and I was deployed on my first tour of duty to Afghanistan, and I spent 6 months in Afghanistan. So just remind me of the question.
Could you share, for example, a specific episode, even a small but profoundly human moment that captured what it means to be a priest in the midst of the war?
Yeah. So, I went to I did 3 tours of duty, 2 in Afghanistan and 1 in Iraq. So I first deployed in 2006 to Afghanistan, in 2008 to Iraq, and then 2010 back to Afghanistan. So 3 tours, very, very close together. So you begin by the pre-deployment training, and as chaplain, you're part of not just preparing yourself, but preparing the troops. And we did that through teaching values and standards. So we would teach them about courage, moral courage, especially self-discipline, loyalty, respect for others, selfless commitment, and integrity. And that was part of and we would also be part of preparing them, for engaging with fear in themselves, and also preparing them to see injury and death around them, which is what they did when they got there. So and I'm preparing myself also on top of that, because I was assigned in my first tour as the hospital chaplain, the field hospital chaplain, and I looked after a number of other units as well on top of that. So when we got out there, in my first tour, we had 17 soldiers killed, and I from the moment we'd heard about it, I went to the hospital waiting for the body to turn up, and then we would have a little kind of ceremony and so forth, and I would accompany the soldier who'd been asked to identify the body. I was asked to accompany that soldier in order to identify the body, with the military police present as well, of course. and then I would conduct, along with the chaplain, the field, who'd been on the ground with them was there. We would conduct the repatriation ceremony, and they would go onto the back of a plane and then fly off back to the UK, and the family would greet them the other side. I would then get, when time allowed, get into a helicopter and go to the unit where that soldier died to be with his friends, because they couldn't come back to the main base, and I would conduct a little ceremony for them, a little religious service, and talk to them and so forth, and give them a listening ear, because one of their mates had died, and the last time they saw them, they were lying on the floor, and then the next minute they were away in a helicopter. So that's what I did for them. I would give them a listening ear, give them a little bit of religious input, which they appreciated really well. And then I would come back to the main base, back to the hospital, and that happened 17 times on that tour.
What is the war for you? What is the war for you?
What is the war?
Yeah.
You mean, what is war?
For you, you experienced that. So.
It's something that clearly the church teaches against war. It's not free from being innocent of that in its history, sadly, itself. However, the Catholic Church teaches against war and teaches peace, as it should do, even though it hasn't been always faithful to that, sadly. But there we go. So war is evil. Clearly, it is people who just simply cannot get on together, and it's got to the point, where anger has become so much that it's spilt into the killing of others, and so that it is right that we should be in the midst of that, trying to heal it, trying to be there and to try and heal the wounds, to try and teach peace, and just show another way of living. And we did that in a number of ways. I would engage as a chaplain with the enemy, as it were. Members of the Taliban who'd been captured, I'd go and talk to them. Sometimes they were in hospital because they'd been injured. And I would go and say hello to them. And, this person may well have killed a number of people in his life, It was always the men, it was never the women. I would show them, a sign of peace. And that's what I did out there. So it was a good opportunity for me to do that. I'd rather I wasn't there in the midst of war, but there we go. War is reality, sadly. And so we don't carry arms, of course. We don't carry weapons, chaplains.
Yeah, sure.
So we are hopefully a sign of what humanity could be if it could just live in peace.
What was the hardest challenge you faced?
I suppose dealing with those soldiers who died, definitely that was definitely the hardest, of course. But also, going to see the families. When I got home, I'd go and see the families of those who'd been killed. I couldn't see them all, but certainly some of them. There were other chaplains doing the same thing, of course, so I would go and see as many as I could. That was very difficult, but at the same time, I could tell them, what happened after that soldier died. The fact that, we had a little bit of a service in the hospital. We had a very formal, repatriation, and I went to see the soldier's friends in his unit and so forth. I gave them a little bit of a wider picture so that they could see, what had happened, and they really, really appreciated me coming to visit them. You know,
was there a moment when you truly thought, I can do it, I want to go home or something?
Yeah, lots of times. Yeah, yeah. There was one time actually in my third tour, which is a much bigger one in terms of many more soldiers there in Afghanistan, and we had 82 deaths on that tour, that third tour. And I remember we'd had 4 deaths in one go, and that was in a vehicle that had been hit by an IED, an explosion. And 4 soldiers had died in that vehicle. And we'd gone through the process that I've already said, going to the hospital, and we'd conducted the ramp ceremony as part of the process of sending the soldier home. And we were literally on the way back. And this is like about 2 a.m. in the morning, back to our tent. And a call came through saying that we were required at the hospital again because there was some more soldiers coming in who'd been killed. And it was another 4 soldiers who'd been killed. And their vehicle had tipped off the road into a wadi, into a river. And they got trapped and they drowned. It was absolutely awful. It was just so, I'll never forget it when we got that message and we got to the hospital to find out what had happened. And we were just stood there. There were 4 of us, 4 chaplains, in absolute shock and thinking, my goodness me. And that was a very difficult moment. And that was the moment I thought, as a human being, I'm finding this very difficult. However, we rallied together, and we gave each other support and so forth, and we got on with it. We did it. We received the bodies. We did the reception of these deceased soldiers and accompanying the person who'd been identified, who'd been asked to identify the bodies, as part of the formal process of, that, and then doing again the next few days, going through the repatriation ceremony and the ramp ceremony again. That was a very difficult moment.
In the middle of the violence and suffering, did you ever witness such a strong sign of hope that you can say, God is here?
Yeah, sometimes you say to yourself, where is God in this? But he is there in the midst of the sufferings, and you have to remind yourselves of the passion of Christ himself, the life, death, or the death and resurrection of Christ, suffering of Christ on the cross, and just say to yourself that Christ is here amongst the suffering, and that even though it might seem that there is nothing there, there is. God is there, and he truly was, without a doubt. And he worked through us, through the chaplains. We all we did is simply apply the gospel to these situations that we found ourselves in, and we asked soldiers to have a faith. Some of it, sometimes they were religious, sometimes they weren't, but they did have a faith. Many of them had a religious faith, and you could see that in them. They would literally close their eyes and pray when you were praying for those who died, and they were genuinely religious people.
Were some practicing?
Or? Yeah. When I went to the camps after a soldier died to be with the soldiers' friends, they all came. I did a little religious service for them. They were all there. Except for those who were guarding the base, the camp, obviously. But I would go and visit them as well, and talk to them. Yeah, God is there, even though it's very difficult to see that sometimes. Yeah, He's there in the midst of war.
After all this time in that reality, what have you ultimately learned about humanity and about God?
I've learnt that humanity is often very weak. We don't know as much as we think we know. We sometimes don't think clearly. We don't think about others, about the destruction that we might occur in the lives of others by our own actions. That can be on a very, very large level, of course. I mean, take Ukraine, for example, or any war. The destructive nature of such acts are immense, and so we just need to pull ourselves back from the brink, and think there is a better way of doing this. There is a better way of being human, and that is by caring for others, rather than just being selfish and wanting things that we can't have.
If you had to choose again, would you still go?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'd go tomorrow if I could. Absolutely, yeah. I'd struggle now because I'm a bit older. But yes, absolutely. Definitely, I would be there. Okay. Without doubt.
If you wish, can you speak directly to somebody who is searching about the truth, or maybe a person that is living his life on a day-by-day basis without thinking about God, without thinking about others? Do you want to send a message to them, for example, or give an invitation to look beyond the surface of the world, the appearance, and say something? For example, you can find the truth in the Catholic faith, or you can find the truth beyond the world, beyond the sufferings.
Yeah, absolutely. Some people live in despair, don't they? They do. But there's no need. Whenever I've come across anyone who I think is literally living in a hopeless situation, I'll say, look, read the Gospels that are written, because these are messages of hope, without a doubt. And read the life of Christ, and because this is such a soothing thing to do, to read the life of Jesus Christ, and then to get to the end of the Gospels and then read the Passion of Christ. It makes you look inwards at yourself and think, actually, I'm not going to go through that. I mean, there are some people, I suppose. I'm never going to go through that, what Jesus Christ went through. And it wasn't just some arbitrary event. It was something that was done for a reason. And it's hard to understand that in some ways, why someone would go through all that suffering for the love of humanity, but he has. And it makes you look inwards, and it makes you look at your own heart and your own mind, and your own selfishness, I suppose, or occasions of selfishness, and turn that into a hope and a faith, and indeed an ability to be able to look beyond yourself and to look to others, and to help others, with the difficult situations in their own lives, and come to the realization that we are not alone. We have someone who loves us. Even if we are all alone in this world, we have someone who loves us and who has created us, and our beautiful little dogs and everything around us. and we can find strength and purpose from that.
A week ago, I met a young woman. I spoke with her about the faith, and she told me, I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm an atheist. I'm not looking for any other purpose. I'm happy in this situation. I don't need anything. What do you want to say a word in this case? What can we do? What can we say in this
Just say that.
situation?
Just say that again.
Yeah, I met a week ago a young woman. We talk about the faith. I talk about my faith. And she just said, I'm okay in my situation. I don't want to change my mind. I don't want to believe in any gods. How can we deal with in this situation?
She's kind of content with her.
Yeah, she's just happy without any looking for truth, without any.
I think she would be surprised at what she can know about herself if she went down if she started a journey of faith. She's probably reached a plateau where she feels comfortable, and that's fine. You know, that's rather people who are in that place where they are content than not. You know, but just to look beyond that, because you know, if you just stop where you are, and then life becomes a little bit meaningless in some ways. You know. And it can become a little bit, negatively speaking, inward looking, you know, and our faith should prompt us to look beyond the self and to look to others. That's why that we have the commands: love your neighbour, you know, do to others as you wish they would do to you. And so our faith prompts us to go out, like the disciples did, to go out and spread the word. You know, and to treat others with respect and humanity, and to treat them like they are children of God. Without a doubt.
Thank you for your time, Father Darren. Thank you for your witness. God bless you.
You're welcome.